meeting notice verification?
September 10th.
Tammy, would you like to read this in the pledge? Tammy? I'm sorry? Would you like to read the pledge?
Oh, I'd love to, thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, would you like to read this?
Yes, sir. To serve with passion, ignite creativity, innovation, and excellence. Thank you.
Roll call, we've got all 7 board members, and Ryan looks like the full admin team is here tonight.
Everybody except Mr. Jensen. He has a family matter that he's working with this
Okay.
evening.
Wonderful. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion by Sean and a second by Jane. Is there any discussion? Aye. We'll move on to connection with the community. First item up is board reports by high school reps. And Madison, would you like to go first?
You may want to speak up. We got a microphone right here. You don't need to be that close.
Okay, so as of now, the school started today. The changes that we implemented at the high school were as of Monday with through Canada and how we do. Lunch tables have like a 3-person limit. You have to go first hour into the school. We look down desks and chairs every hour, and then social distancing and masks for everybody.
And then along with school being started, our sports teams and extracurriculars are still continuing. Some of the high risk sports such as football, volleyball, and soccer are starting to play their games this week and the following, as they've been practicing for a few weeks now. And then some of our more lower risk, such as tennis and cross country, they've already had a few matches and meets. But as far as sports, we're still going with that. We're excited to see some of the teams play this week.
Are there questions for the board reps?
Did either of you go to school today? Maddie? Oh, you both did? How'd you feel about it?
It was really good, yeah. Last night I had a few concerns about, what it would be like, what the differences would be. And honestly, when I got here, immediately I felt really safe. Obviously, I drive through myself and I park my car at home. In my home, there's no leaving the cars. I was really socially distant. And in my home, there's only 3 there. So for me, the right off the bat, I felt super safe. And then going to my first hour, first thing we did was grab a wipe and grab the spray bottle sanitizer that we wanted. It felt really safe. And a lot of the teachers are implementing like the little things that make it a little bit safer. Many teachers who have desks in their classrooms are combining 2 desks together. And then let's say in the first hour, the student would sit on the right, and then at the end of the hour, they'll wipe everything down. And then the second hour, the student will come and sit on the left, just to avoid a little bit of exposure. And then another thing that I really felt was really cool was the staggered release time. So different members of the building that went out at different times. So that was really cool. Not only for getting on the school parking lot was a lot less crowded, and overall it felt super safe and comfortable. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I know I left the lunch, I went over to Max, stayed for lunch, he said it went really well. And that was one of my biggest concerns, his lunch, I was like, there's no way we can do social distance lunch, but he said it went really well.
Yeah, we had the 3 people to the table, and quite a few people decided to either leave and go to their own home or they ate outside. So overall, it was really great for all of them. I was pleasantly surprised.
Here.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, correspondence, we didn't have anything tonight, correct, Pat? And next up is citizen participation at board meetings, board policy 186. No one signed up? Okay. And next is reports. First is CISA 4 Board of Control, and that's Jane.
All right, we had our meeting on September 2nd, and I attended this one via Zoom because I was up in Bloomer with my grandkids. We had a presentation from Erin Hansen and Lauren Stewart, directors at CISA 4, And they talked about the virtual professional development that they held over the summer. They said they had good participation despite having to be online, and they did have the speakers there. And then they had some people in different rooms at the actual building, but I think they said they had 140 some watching. And so they were happy with that went really well.
Is that normal participation, or did they get even higher numbers because of the remote option?
It was not higher, it was comparable,
Oh, okay.
but they were thinking that they would get as good a participation because of the circumstances. So that went well. We had an update on our COVID action plan. Kale let us know that we do now, we were bordering on being able to hire a social worker position. There's some schools that share that service. And in order to offer that person an actual position, we had to have enough schools participate. And we have enough, that threshold has been met, and now they're looking at, they might actually add even more and make it a full-time position versus part-time because there is more of a need. So we'll get updated on that at our next meeting. And then just one more, a final update on the new phone system is complete and people are loving it. The feature that they're really liking, it allows their voicemail to go to their computer. So if they aren't in building, they can get their voicemails wherever they are. So they're really liking that feature. And then our next meeting is October 7th. Okay. That's easy.
Thank you, Jane. What questions do we have for Jane? All right, so then we'll move on to business operations report, and that's Tom. You guys met tonight?
Yep, we met tonight. We discussed 3 issues: technology for the Hyder meeting room and the broadcasting, standards and poor, and our 2020-21 budget. As far as the technology for the Hyder meeting room, we will be discussing that further on. So I think we'll hold off any discussion on that until we get to that point. The standards and poor, we were downgraded to an A+ rating versus last year we were at a AA-. The reason being behind that is because of the $850,000 we used out of our general fund to pay for costs like paying off the automotive center, the re-roof, things of that nature. Either way, we still would have been downgraded, but we have a plan in action. We've actually had this plan for a year or two to get our general fund back up anyway. So in all sense, everything's going well. And then the 2020-21 budget, everything's looking good as long as the state keeps on telling us that we're going to receive our extra $300 per kid to get to $10,000 per kid. And from what Sean was telling us is everybody keeps on saying, yes, we're going to get it. If we don't get it, we can come to a 1.3 million shortfall. But as of right now, tentatively, we're at a 9.49 levy rate, which we've been telling the public we're going to stay at 9.55. So we'll be seeing a difference there. Really, I'm not going to speculate too much on it until we get some more firm numbers, which we should have in October. Then we'll have another date and I can give you a better forecast of where we're headed.
Questions for Tom? And next up is reports from Ryan Reed, Superintendent. And board reports from the cabinet, right? That was included in the packet?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I'll start off and I want to reiterate what Madison and Max were saying about the beginning of the year today and this having kids on campus. And it was a great feeling to see kids back around again. And I just want to, throw out kudos to our team, the administrative team and the teachers here. They did a tremendous job. If you could have seen how organized everything ran this morning from We were talking about the high school with the different doors they came in, with how Mr. Ben had everything set up over at the middle school with the different doors, and the same thing at the elementary school. You know, being over at the elementary school for the past 4 years and being in that south parking lot with the drop off with the cars, that, you know, can turn into quite the traffic jam, and things ran very smoothly. And then just being in the buildings throughout the day and seeing the flow of the traffic and looking in the classrooms, and it was just good to see kids back. And our staff did a tremendous job. They were being great role models for our kids today, going through their expectations and how to conduct themselves and carry themselves throughout the buildings. So I can't say enough about our team that was here today and the jobs that they did. You know, so far so good. I guess do any of you want to add anything in, or? No, I mean, it was, you know, they were all out visible, walking around. You know, the lunch procedures, I know it was different in the elementary school than compared to the middle school or the high school. But the elementary school kids ate in their classrooms. They walked down, you know, one class at a time, went through the line, had a styrofoam container that they had their lunch in, went back to their classrooms, ate from there. So, you know, the honeymoon period is on. So it started off very well today from that. So I guess, you know, any questions that any of you have with that?
How did busing and all that?
I did talk with Mr. Klein this morning. There are fewer students riding the buses, which we anticipated was going to be the case, which means there was more traffic on campus with cars. But the one thing that Mr. Klein Rick talked to our drivers about is make sure you stay the course. You know, if there's nobody at the stop, make sure you stop, because we know how regimented that gets, and you can almost set your watch to when the bus will be at your house to pick up kids. And he didn't want any of the bus drivers to get ahead of schedule or whatnot because nobody was there. So as the bus drivers went through their pickups, they made sure they stopped at those locations just to make sure they kept that timing close for the rest of the parents. So every indication that I had after talking to Rick after the morning run that, you know, there were fewer students riding the bus, but well, naturally so, because we had half our student body here from 6 through 12 as well, but that went very well.
I liked seeing the Facebook post that Sam did of the kids. My kid drives to school, so I don't get to see all the kids coming to school anymore, and it was really heartwarming to see all the little kids coming to school in their masks. And
yeah, you could tell their eyes were squinting, so they were smiling underneath the mask. And it was good to see familiar faces around too. So, the one other thing that I have on here for for informational purposes, on one of the to-do list items that you asked me to look into are sub rates. And our sub pool is more of a puddle, and it's the same way throughout all the districts. The sub pool isn't as deep as it has been, for multiple reasons. But you have this within the board report here. You know, we're very competitive with everybody around. The only district that does provide more money per day for sub costs or for sub pay is La Crosse. So, but all these numbers are up to date, and I double checked with everybody. So, you know, this is the sub rates that people have, and you know, we do have some changes that we make from time to time with our current rates. When you look at that, if there's a sub that we have in our building that's high end, we do tend to bump them up a little bit and call them a preferred sub. And if that happens, then they get a different rate. We do provide a higher rate for a teacher that would come back to sub if they retired from the school district. And then any long-term sub, we base their wage off of our base salary schedule model. So we're not trailing behind anybody, and you know, the puddle isn't because of the fact that you know, we're not offering as much as other districts. It's just kind of the nature of the times that we're in right now.
Ken, Jim, question?
Yeah, Ryan, I had a question in regards to medical issues. Did we see people reporting to the medical? I know Beth's not here, as far as showing symptoms, and how did that process work, or did we have to enact the process at all for any children?
Yep, no, we had some situations today that we had 2 teachers that were out and they were waiting on pending tests. They did teach remotely from home. So we were able to utilize that. We've talked about how we're going to handle that as far as subs with our administrative team. There are 2 cases of positive students within our district. We have 8 students that are awaiting results for a test, and we have 14 that are currently quarantined due to family members. So, and how that process works is if or when they would, a student or a staff member would test positive, the staff members' jobs are to make sure they notify their building supervisor and Beth, and then we would also get notification from the county as well.
And I guess mine was more, did we have any students who attended today who we sent to the nurse's office because of symptoms? Because I know Beth had laid out a process.
Yeah.
Incubation rooms or, isolation rooms and calling the parents.
Yeah.
Did we have to utilize that process?
I think there was a couple in there. I don't know the exact number today, but I know that some students did get sent home.
Just was wondering how the process worked.
Yep.
Thank you.
Other questions for Ryan or the admin reports? Okay, if not, I'll move on to the consent agenda, which includes minutes of the regular board meeting of August 24th, 2020, invoices to be paid, resignations, donations, and co-curricular recommendations for middle school cross-country, football, and volleyball.
I'll move to approve, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, what was that, Ken?
I'll move to approve, Madam Chair.
Okay, got a motion from Ken.
I'll second. Can we read the
I'm
donations?
gonna do that
Thanks.
after we check for a second. The motion is second, and I will read the donations like we normally do. The middle school art department received the following items over the summer. Foam from Floating Gardens LLC from Bonnie Goodenough with a value of $200. Miscellaneous craft supplies from Steve and Sherry Craig with a value of $450. Art and craft supplies from Chris and Stacy Hutchinson with a value of $150. Art and craft supplies from Jane Bangsberg with a value of $150. Art and craft supplies from Ray and Heidi Ebert, $150. And paint from Identity Works, Tom and Bridget Hanchett with a value of $200. And the Nutrition Services Program received a donation of $780 from the La Crosse Community Foundation, Jim's Grocery Bag Fund. West Salem Elementary PTO donated water bottles to the elementary school for a value of $1,541.35 and $1,913.40 to the PTO Teacher Grant Fund. And then Colleen Miller donated $75 to the Lisa Hugo Memorial Fund in memory of her father, Conrad Miller. So, a lot of donations this round. We thank everyone for contributing to that. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And moving on to,
Sam's next.
okay,
We're gonna have-
Sam's next, sorry.
Sam's next.
Trying to find out what's going on.
One of the,
Communications and marketing.
Yep, one of the things that I want to make sure that we do is to bring Sam up and have a conversation with everybody, like to keep you all in the loop of what she's doing and how we're getting our name out there. And so, Sam, go ahead.
All right, so just a quick recap, kind of what I've been up to in the summer, what we're doing moving forward. What they're passing down are some of the things that I've been working with Beth on for flyers, flowcharts, graphics, things that we've been putting up around school. There's things for attendance guidelines, travel guidelines, things for staff, reminders for students, for anybody that moves into our building. We've been spending a lot of time on these. I've been helping with the design, and Beth has been great with all the text and technical stuff, and just making sure that they're kind of branded to us and, that they're ours. That's been a big thing we've been working on this summer, and as things change, those have to be updated. Some of those probably need to be updated in the next day or so, but working with those, so like that first page especially, that's more so for families guideline if they're concerned about their child, if they think they might need to stay home to help them avoid extra questions and things like that. So those are all going out to families, they're up around the buildings, they're very visible. Just continuing to share all the great things that our staff have been doing to try to connect with kids during this time, especially over the summer. We did the virtual summer school. We had teachers that were Zooming one-on-one with kids to catch up on reading, great things like that. The prep for this school year, so in-service a couple weeks ago, they did a great job with that. People were really responding well when they saw that the teachers were in the building and they're working to prepare for the kids to come back. That was great. Just some fun things like Throwback Thursday. Tammy did a great video when she came on board. People really liked that, introducing herself, so that's something we're going to look to some video. The live streaming of the board meetings, that has gotten a lot of great feedback so far. People really seem to enjoy the ability to kind of participate from home if they don't want to come in. I think our highest video so far had almost 1,000 views last I checked. So people are responding well, they're watching. I don't know how many are watching right now, but you can tell us. But we had a couple issues with audio, but I think that is being discussed with the new happening now later. So that should help with that. Our website, we've added pages on our website for all of our schools for just COVID-19 academic updates. So each school has a page, anything that gets sent out to parents gets added to those pages, dated, so that they can always go back and refer if they use an email or something along those lines. And then working with Ryan to send out all of our updates. So last Friday we sent out our weekly updates as far as our metrics and things like that, how the decisions are being made, and with Emily, as they've been working to order the meals for food service and distribute those to families. And then also evaluating our new family enrollment. Last I checked, we had 81 new students since the end of last year. I don't have all the statistics on them yet. We typically send a follow-up survey within the first couple weeks of school, but being that they just started in person today, we want to wait a little bit till we send that survey. Moving forward, one of the biggest things I think that we can do to keep ourselves in the public eye in a good way is just making sure that we are emphasizing that we're keeping kids safe, we're keeping our staff safe. We're putting all those little things to use, the social distancing, the hand washing, the masking. And I walked around with Brian did today. Everybody did a great job today, staff, students. I didn't see one kid complain about wearing a mask or taking it off, even the really little ones. So they did a great job. Just following all of our protocols, they're very capable, and I think they're just all really happy to be back at school. And like somebody mentioned, you could tell, you could see their little eyes squinting. They're just happy to be with their teachers and get that one-on-one attention. So continuing to emphasize when we do have our kids here, that they're learning, they're still doing all this great stuff with their teachers and the rest of the staff. Also, as far as updates, in the past, Troy and I had done some superintendent's corners, so Ryan and I are going to be starting those up again. Just a monthly video update for people that want to catch up. We didn't have time to always look at what we're doing, but just a quick video update so they can get a rundown of this is what's been happening, this is what's to come. No more than 5 minutes, just somewhere around campus, just a quick little update. Those have been popular in the past. Continuing our weekly staff highlights, those have always been really popular on social media, and just to show our staff that we really do appreciate them, especially in a time like this when they're putting in a lot of extra work. And then just continuing to brand ourselves, so all the different things that we're putting out there. This is West Salem. This belongs to us. This ties back to us. Just making sure people know that, and continuing to get that news coverage. I just checked right before the meeting, both of our interviews from this morning went out from WKBT and WFCW. So those are out, and people got to see that we are the first school that came back, and got to see some great stuff from Ryan and some of our high school teachers. And I think hopefully people will see we had a great first day. And I've heard that from everybody so far, elementary, middle, high. Seems like everybody had a great day. And then just keeping up that consistent communication, because it's going to be so crucial if we do have to switch learning modes, things like that. Ryan and I talked today, we're probably going to meet once a week, and that's just going to be the focus is we have that weekly update. This is what we're sending to families. This is what's going out, making it timely and consistent. Does anyone
Any questions?
I'll start out first with, Sam, I want to let you know that we appreciate what you do at the board level, because your role is critical to providing communication to families, to letting our staff know how much we appreciate them and get them the recognition that they need. So thank you.
No, and I mean, with some of these materials you see here, and she talked about the branding things, you know, Beth has been very busy and diligent about getting the information together, but we want to make sure that we got that out to parents in a form and fashion that was easy to read, that was reliable, and that it said West Salem. And so, you know, with any of those things, you know, we made sure that we got those things to Sam, and Sam was able to turn those around very quickly and put that on. So she's put forth a tremendous amount of work here in the last couple of weeks.
So you said we had 81 new students from the end of the school year to this school year. Do you have a breakdown at all if they're people that have moved in or if they're open enrolled?
I don't. I wasn't able to get the open enrollment numbers from Julie. I got a couple that had moved in, or just a lot of the surveys I looked at, just giving the comments, a lot of families just moving into our list.
Okay.
Probably like 20% of them that said we just moved to the area, whether that's from somewhere completely different or they just decided to move into the district today. But even today, there was a family that came in to enroll 2 more kids. So it's been pretty consistent. We do the little surveys and I'll check my mailbox and one day we had 10 of them. So, and Monica told me not every family has been filling them out completely, but the numbers I have from Julie are accurate. So it is that 80, 81, I think it was, last I checked. But I did notice, I think we had either 10 or 12 from our private schools in the area, Alaska, West Salem, lacrosse, that decided to enroll here. She makes a note of that. I don't know. Deanna, do you know any more about that?
We had a couple that enrolled in CRDA, so coming from Christ St. John's, those the 2 or 3 that I know for sure came from Christ St. John's, but a couple other ones coming in from private schools joined it.
Yeah.
So they live in our boundary area and joined our CRDA.
Yeah, I did skim it out. I think that we were like 15 kids from lacrosse when I was looking up the notes, between 7 and 10 from Alaska and women. So fairly consistent between those areas. I don't think that's anything too out of the ordinary, but I'll have to double check at the breakdown again and want more detail before I can certainly send it to you.
Thanks. Other questions for Sam? All right. Thank you again, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next move on to item B, technology for the Hyder meeting room. Tom?
All right. Basically, we met earlier and we went over a list of things that we've been wanting to see changed and put into the system, and, you know, things like overhead projectors and drop-down screens being removed and replaced with TVs, getting mobile recording units, microphones, things of that nature. Well, we finally ironed everything down. And basically, Craig came up with adding 2 mics for student representatives to our package. Purchase for live streaming athletics, which they already purchased that camera. And so basically, we had a recommendation, and there's a list. We got these pictures if any of you guys want to see the layout, but then there's also an itemized list that we have of the whole system design that's going into this. And we're going with 3 75-inch TVs instead of the screens. And just for your knowledge, that board in the back is 75 inches. So we'll have 3 of those TVs in the room, so that way we'll be able to see everything decently. It'll be smart screen. And basically the total price that we're estimating is $69,965. At the meeting earlier, we all approved it to bring it to the board. We thought it was a good idea right now, except for Eric. He's still a little tentative, but he agreed. And so we're ready to proceed. The only thing we did not add in was we can get a program that would allow people from home to interact with the board. So basically, as we have a board meeting, we would have a TV sitting up here. We can literally watch them from their computer camera, and they can ask questions or whatever. We decided to hold off on that piece of the software, which is $2,835, just because. And we can add that at any time, so it's not like it's something that has to be done while the setup is going on. It's just a software. So what we're asking the board is to approve the Hyder Meeting Center upgrade for technology of $69,965 by using also the Hyder funds to fund all this.
Ready for questions? Those three of those big TVs in that small area?
Yeah, it'll replace the screen up front.
Do you want to see?
Robin,
that
you wanna-
diagram?
So are they gonna be mounted?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're mounted on the wall.
So two in front and one in the back?
Two in front and one in the back, yes.
Okay. Does that make sense,
Does
Jamie?
the one in the back obstruct the view of the people sitting back here? 'Cause how high is the
That'll be
ceiling?
rolled in and out. It's, the one in the back will not be mounted. That'll probably be on a
Oh,
cart.
okay, got you.
And now this whole system can also be expanded on. So if we buy more mobile cameras and we want to switch from one game, say we're videotaping the football game, we got a soccer game going, you can flip and switch. And I mean, we got a lot more versatility with it.
They're waiting.
I guess the only other comment that I would have is we did get a email just this week about or was it a comment on our webpage about the ability for people to interact with the board during the meeting, so is it that big of a deal to add that? I mean, you said it's not, but why the hesitation?
Can I answer that?
Go ahead.
The hesitation was we would prefer if, definitely if it's non-COVID times, that sign up, come and speak so we can have an interaction between us personally. And then other than a few meetings, it just seemed like there's no one ever really signs up. But if we find that it's something that the community wants and we have a lot more interaction with the community, it can be added at any point for roughly $3,000.
It's a piece of software as opposed to a piece of hardware.
We just didn't know how often it would get used.
Well, I just wonder if it would get used more because of the environment that we're in. We have how many people viewing us.
Correct.
Maybe we would, I don't know,
Yeah.
get people to.
Yeah, so we just felt like if it's something that we hear and get feedback that's something that they would like, then it's something we can do at any point with no further increase in cost.
The other
We
thing we
get word
talked
out to
about
let
was,
people know somehow. Do we, I mean, we got a comment just very week about it,
Mhm.
so I don't know if there's others that feel that way, or is there gonna be a way to find that out, ask people, send out I don't know, maybe have it on our Facebook page to get some feedback that way?
Mhm.
But some of us are available for feedback, as is the admin team, for people to send the question at any time, and they do that.
I
So-
realize that, but they might more readily do it if they have a question.
Now, the other thing too is, isn't this being broadcast right now?
Well, that's
So
what I-
then, if people really want it, they can start sending emails or calling the office.
Correct.
The other thing we talked about was there other, having some time to think about, is there other ways to use that technology? Because again, participation at the meeting is pretty small. So if there were other ways that we think we would use that room to do remote engagement,
Okay.
that would maybe make it a little more easy to spend the $3,000.
Yeah, I think that was a really vital point, that we just needed a little more time to brainstorm on other uses to warrant the $3,000. So it wasn't that we thought it was a stop set that we're not doing it.
No, I
It was
think
just, okay, let's think about it. and see if we can come up with other uses to offset that.
And the perfect thing about this is we have everything set in place for technology to expand and do whatever we want. So when we add this stuff in the future, I mean, that's the nice part.
So Tom, the recommendation from the subcommittee and the ask for this committee to approve is what?
Is to approve the $69,965 that we would like to pull from the HIDER fund. The HIDER fund has a balance of $100,000 right now. Ballparking, 5,000 to 6,000 is going to be used on the ticket booth. And so we'd be looking at using about 70,000 for upgrading the HIDER meeting room, which was the intent of that donation, was the HIDER meeting room and the auditorium. And all the equipment that is in the meeting room right now was paid for by the HIDER fund. So we would like to continue that.
Makes sense. All right, I'll make a motion to accept that recommendation from the committee.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion?
I just have a question. With the money taken out of that, how does money get put back into that HIDER fund, or what happens once that's gone?
Well,
Once
sure.
it's gone, it's gone. The other option is we had this discussion at the business operations meeting, Mr. Troy, kind of potential plan is to get the HIDER meeting board, or HIDER board together with the school board, for the school board to decide to continue to keep replenishing this fund for long-term capital. Because as you all know, anything that comes out of that HIDER meeting area or the theater section is very expensive.
Right.
That would be the long-term plan.
What would be
Like
the
the
route
microphones.
to replenish those funds? How would we go about that? Through our annual
It has to
regular
come
budget?
directly out of the general
Yeah.
fund. Yeah.
Under the-
With the thought being that we would allocate a portion of money each year and the HIDER board would allocate.
My thought was, is it, if it was similar to Fund 80 where we have to have a referendum to get money.
No.
No, it's not. It's not similar to Fund 80. It could be if you were a long-term banker, but that's a different discussion. So.
Okay, additional questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. And next item is item C, attendance during indoor and outdoor co-curricular activities.
Yeah, Mike and I and Ryan have been having conversations both with other superintendents and high school principals and ADs. And Mike, you have your stuff? Yes. Go ahead.
We spoke at our last board meeting. I guess I would first of all like to say that I appreciate all the efforts of our new athletic director, Ryan Olson, in these unfamiliar times, because he reached out. And keep in mind that we're working with two conferences, and neither one of our conferences are all doing, not everyone in the conference is doing the same thing. So he's been in communication with all the people of the Cooley Conference and all the people of the MBC conference, and each school is doing something a little bit different as far as which sports and or co-curriculars are or are not participating. Not everyone's doing the same thing, and not all schools are doing the same thing. So just real quick, so Blackburn, Arcadia, Team West Salem, Westby, and Borough were not Alaska Luther. The Cooley Conference is not all doing the same thing, and the same thing holds true in the Mississippi Valley. So as you heard earlier, we've actually had a couple of outdoor events already with tennis and cross country, and so far those have gone fine. We allow spectators to come, wearing a mask on school property and social distancing, and there's been really no issues. Our recommendation would be for our sports where typically we take in larger crowds would be to align with, for the most part, what people within our area are doing. I'm specifically referring to football and volleyball, and that recommendation would be as we would create 4 tickets for each participating athlete, which will allow basically immediate family members or moms and dads of split multiple family dynamics, or siblings to also come if there's childcare issues, where people would sit with their family in the and basically limit it to families only. And we would do that for volleyball and football, and that would align with, kind of land in the middle of what it seems other people are doing. So that would be my recommendation.
Does that include our athletes and then the visiting athletes?
Great question. No, we would only allow home spectators. Visiting spectators would not be granted any tickets or seats, and based on how this is aligning, that's for the most part what the other schools are doing as well. So for example, our volleyball team is going to Yalesville tomorrow night, and they are allowing anyone in from either school.
Oh, interesting.
So each school's doing something a little bit different. I think most people's goal is to finish the seasons, not start them. So they're trying to start slow and see how it goes, and we can always allow more people than if we would choose to down the road. So, for example, Sparta is also not allowing any spectators at all, athletes and game personnel only. Westby and Whirlpool are allowing just the home fans, and again, it's kind of a little bit of everything. So that would be what I guess our administrative team came to, that would be our recommendation.
Ken?
Question I have is, in the past, we had calculated numbers for the gym and for the football stadium. How does that equate to 4 tickets per athlete to the capacity that we had figured?
Well, again, we're kind of estimating just based on for sure how many are exactly on the volleyball team, but ultimately it would fall within those parameters. And then again, it would depend on which matrix we're following. Are we following the 36 square foot social distancing matrix? Are we following the social gathering matrix, which is 25% capacity? Or are we following the mass gathering matrix, which is 50%? So it would depend kind of on which one of those we want to follow. It for sure would fall within the 25 and 50% with room to spare. If we follow the 36 square foot matrix, we should be right there. The square footage of the football stadium allows for 210 people. So quickly, if we had 50 football athletes in each, we're giving 4 tickets, that's 200 people. I mean, it depends exactly on how many, but we're real close that way.
And then what about the gym?
The gymnasium, we would allow for, if we had all 4 sections of the bleachers up, square footage would allow for 154. And quickly, if we said we had 15 girl JV volleyball players and 15 varsity volleyball players is 30, times 4 would be 120, but still fall within that. So we're under it. And all those matrices, just a matter of which one we follow.
Okay, thanks for doing the research to have those numbers. Yes, Sean?
I'm sorry, Joe.
I just had one follow-up. You had mentioned 4 tickets for family members. Could they utilize those tickets anywhere they like? So Max could get a ticket from one of the volleyball players if they only had 2 parents coming.
I think what we would tell them is that it needs to be immediate family only, so like mom, dad, siblings, and maybe grandparents, because what we're ultimately trying to do is reduce the number of outside of the household as much as we can. Obviously, whoever happens to be working the gate may or may not know everybody in the house related to this and that, so there's always going to be some difficulty with that. But our goal would be that we promote immediate family would be our goal.
And Jane?
How, if you had to, would you control or police, for lack of a better word, people that stand on the outside of them?
That's a great question, Jane. We've asked the other schools that, and we basically come to the consensus we're not sure that we can. So if a whole bunch of people come and stand outside the football gate, we're gonna try to walk around, try to tell them the best we can that if you're on school property, you need to have on a mask and you need to social distance, and other than that, I'm not sure what we can do.
I have visions of people that did that at my father's baseball tournament, so they didn't want to pay to get in, so they stood on the
We've already had those conversations. Yeah, so we'll try to do the best we can. We talked with Holman on Alaska, they're in the same boat, we're not really sure. A lot of schools have some of their athletic events, not even on school grounds or property, so it gets even more gray on how you manage all that.
But on our property, we can at least have those.
We would walk around and try to do the best we can and really manage what's through the gate inside of the event.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Yes, Sean?
So I'm just gonna clarify, I wanna make sure, so your recommendation is 4 tickets per student. Families can sit together. Non-families have to be socially distant,
Correct,
and everybody needs to be masked.
correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just one.
Go ahead.
I really support what you're doing as far as numbers, and I like how you got there. But I would really like our students to at least have the possible opportunity to participate. They're in school all day long with these athletes, and whether it's the athletes or the extracurricular or whatever activity. And so, would you consider extending it to students if maintaining the 4 per player if they showed a student ID to get in? So that we could limit it, so you could really police it then. So like I said, if someone only had their 2 parents, they had 2 more tickets they could give to 2 students, and they could show it up, they had the ticket in hand, they had their student ID. Would you support that?
I'm a high school guy, I will support as many people coming as we think is safe. So if you as a board think that we should allow kids in, I'll be able to manage the crowd control piece of it. My recommendation is the 4 tickets, but if you guys want kids to be part of that, I would support that full all in.
But I'm saying is we'll still limit to 4 tickets per, so we'll still limit the number of athletes.
So your real question is, if I get 4 tickets, can I get 2 to my friends and 2 to my mom and dad?
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
And I
Well,
guess I'm.
but that opens the discussion of where do the extra kids sit, and then you're gonna be mixing people together, and we're trying to avoid that, right?
We are, but we've got them in the classroom every day, and I think there's room in the gym, which you did based on 1 person every 36 square feet, right? And so if we have a family sitting together, we have enough room to make the numbers.
I think personally, the problem comes when you are trying to contact trace something that would happen at an event, and you can't contact trace it to a particular family when you spread it out to, we've now got 10 students who may have been here, who are all congregating out by the ticket booth area. As people are coming in, it just creates a bigger issue when you try to contact trace people back to where something may have happened.
I think one thing Mike said too that was important is our goal is not to start the season, but to finish the season.
Correct.
And as we continue on, if things progress in a positive light, then I think these are things that we could come back and discuss. But what I'd hate to have happen is for, the allowing of, and I agree with Mike. I mean, a high school event isn't a high school event without people around, but I think we owe our athletes an opportunity to finish a season too.
I hear what you're saying about wanting the high school kids to participate and have that high school experience, and I mean, nothing about COVID is fair. But so maybe the question becomes then, how can they participate? And, we heard from Craig earlier tonight about live streaming some of the events. So would that fill the gap that you're thinking about?
Actually, I think it'd make it worse, because I think what we'll end up with is if we don't allow them into the event and we live stream it, you're going to have a house with 20 students in watching the volleyball game on Thursday night. And they're not going to social distance.
That could happen whether a handful of kids have tickets or
Yeah.
not.
Because the majority of the opposing schools, like if we're not going to Baroque Club, they're gonna have the ability to live stream it, or if we're going to Onalaska, our parents can watch the game on Alaska's live stream. Is that accurate, Mike?
For the most part, I can't say
Is
that
it everybody?
that way, but
Yeah.
to my knowledge, nobody is allowing visitors, period.
Right,
And most are going to
Live.
most are going to somehow live stream the event.
So if we allow the 4 tickets per player, will we still live stream all of our events?
I'm hoping
In
so. I don't know
addition?
where we're at. Craig, can speak to it. We talked about it
Yeah.
after the last board meeting. I know
Okay.
that we have a camera in the process of on its way in that's going to be mounted in the gym. And it's kind of a funky thing, it like follows the volleyball or the basketball around. I don't know if we get something for the football field and soccer field. So yes, that is the plan.
I will make a motion that we allow 4 tickets per athlete. And the athlete can split them among family members or students in West Salem with a valid ID.
Okay, I have a motion. Is there a second? All right, seeing no second, are there other motions that you
Yeah, I'd
would
like to make a motion to follow Mike's guidance.
Did I do that wrong?
You have to repeat it 3 times.
Do I have to repeat what?
Is there a second?
Is there a second? Is there a second?
Is there a second to Ken's motion? Going twice, going 3 times. Is there a second to Ken's motion? All right. Sean, would you like to make?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to follow Mike's guidelines exactly as he stated, with 4 tickets, with the intent to be immediate family only, with social distancing and masking is the requirement.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Sean and a second by Jane. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Moving on is item D, Fund 80 support for the Boys and Girls Club. We have attachment G in your packet.
I indicated this, I reported this out in one of my weekly reports to you a couple weeks ago about any interest in utilizing Fund $80 to support the BGC in their service of the academic support that they've supplied our students and are going to continue to supply our students during times of when we're either not in school, or even when we're in school and some students are working remotely. So for the first 2 weeks that we had school, the Boys and Girls Club allowed 50 students into the building while we were in online learning at no cost to the families. And so with the no cost to the families, that's something that they've worked in partnership with other districts around, that there's Boys and Girls Clubs within those districts. And some other districts are utilizing Fund $80 to help support the Boys and Girls Club during that time. During times of closure, or like we have right now, where our 612 students are on a West Day or a Salem Day, and some of them are not in. If there's students or families that need either child support or child care or support academically, they're going to be there for them. And so these Fund $80 would be, under the Community Service Fund portion of Fund 80 to help support them in paying their staff and supporting our students during those times.
And their attendance is capped at 50, you told me, right?
Right now it is, yeah, because that's what they have, the availability that they have.
So the ask at the moment is for the 5504, but it's a long-term ask for the whole school year, right? So how much do we have in Fund 80?
We have currently right now in Fund 80, we have $57,000.
Okay.
And could you put the parameters around Fund 80 for me, please?
Well, basically what, and Sean, you can probably help me with this a little bit, but portion of our Fund $80, they go to support the running of our pool on our aquatic center, running of the fitness center, things like that. So areas that we have that are available to the community. And with us having the pool shut down, and the pool didn't run this summer, and with right now currently the fitness center isn't available. We could utilize some of those community service funds to help support our students academically when they're not in the building with us. So what happens on a typical day, or what happened on those typical days, the first 8 days that we were online, were that it was used as child support or child care for our families. And so they would show up and they would conduct and they would sign in with the classes with our teachers, and BGC staff would be there to help support the students through their learning.
Can I ask you another question,
You
please?
bet.
Other school districts, Lacrosse, Onalaska, and Holman, they have already agreed to this,
Yes.
that they're paying their Boys and Girls Club.
The Boys and Girls Club or the Y program. So there's the Boys and Girls Clubs are in Lacrosse and Boys and Girls Clubs are in Holman right now. And so Onalaska is utilizing some Fund 80 dollars to pay for their Y cap.
Does this cover the first 8 days, or does this cover the first semester, or?
Well,
year, or
I guess
just to
part, you know,
set an expectation for future funds?
it would be just, you know, that 5,500 was the first 8 days of what they incurred. So, you know, as a board, we would have a choice of, we want to say we're going to cover those first 8 days and that's it. Do we want to leave the window open a little bit due to some, you know, if there's unforeseen, you know, closures and we go back to virtual where we have some leeway with some of those funds. I know the funds that the other districts have shared, and it doesn't matter what, you know, I don't want to use that to feel like we're pressured into doing anything, but we have some funds in Fund 80 where, you know, it's helping to support our students and seeing if there's interest in us to support the BGC to service our students when we're not in session.
I would like us to potentially brainstorm on other areas at some point, if we fall back into those environments, that we're not solely relying on the Boys and Girls Club to provide that maybe, I don't know, we could brainstorm on it.
I've thought about some other areas too.
Yeah, so maybe that's for we're not there yet, but for your to-do, your action list, that maybe we just come up with some other options. So if we do end up in that situation that, you know, we're not spending $5,500 every 8 days. No. I get that.
My concern is, I mean, we have areas that use those funds. The pool is that grabs a lot of money without it running last year. Who knows what it, you know, if we're gonna run into any issues with that next year is my first concern. It's a very expensive operation. We also have Camperdown. You know, there's a lot of places that use those funds, and the only way to replenish that is through a referendum. Correct? Sean?
For the
Fund 80.
Fund 80.
That is the only way that.
Approve as a board to decide whether you want to increase the levy for those types of activities.
Right. Which takes the voters say so.
But so how much are we levying each year currently?
$109,500.
I guess my worry is that if we were to have to go to virtual tomorrow, this essentially costs us $750 a day, right? So if we look at that ongoing cost of that, it's not sustainable. So are we trying to wrap our heads around ways that we could use our own staff to begin to open up places on campus that aren't utilizing the Boys and Girls Club staff?
Those are things that I've discussed with the Boys and Girls Club as well. I don't think, I guess my ask here isn't necessarily for us to project, but I know what other districts have done is they've just said, okay, we're gonna specify a specific amount out of that Fund 80, and once you get to that amount, then that's their contribution to help support their district's kids through the Boys and Girls Club. So my ask isn't that we sit here and we calculate what that potentially might be. I guess my ask is the board willing to say, all right, we're willing to put X amount of dollars to Fund 80 to support our students if they attend the Boys and Girls Club or with the means that they have academically if there's a school closure.
Yes.
If I could, Catherine, I'm going to read off the state website that Fund 80 is used to account for activities such as adult education, community recreation programs such as evening swimming pool operations, softball league, elderly food service, non-special education, preschool daycare service, and other programs which are not elementary and secondary education programs. It also goes on to state, and let me get to another page, that funding of this is not allowed under the Fund 80. Now, what Sean and I talked to previously is this is a temporary thing, and there could be a temporary exclusion, but as the legislation states, Fund 80 should not be used for this at all. And I think even more so now, hearing that it's limited to 50 children, we're definitely, this is a community fund. This isn't for 50 people who sign up first and for pupils. So I'm all for finding another way to do this, but funding a private organization, I mean, we should be funding then the local church that is going to do this, but not just picking one organization. I support the Boys and Girls Club and what they do, but I think that we've gone too far if we start using our Fund 80 funds. And to Jane's point, it is a limited amount. We have it all allocated to be spent this year. And if we want to increase it, we have to go to referendum.
And I was looking at this state statute 120 that I put in that, if you go down to number 19, I think there was, and I included that in my attachment G with that hyperlink. If you read that number 19, I think there's a way in which that would work. And that's what the other districts are utilizing at that point. And if we don't want to, then, obviously that's the board's decision, and and I would support that, but it's just an ask. I know the other districts are doing that because they're in a very similar situation that we were, and looking at the state statute 120.13 and number 19, that's where they're founding ways to make this work in Fund 80, so that's why I came to ask.
Can you read that? Because I can't find it.
Technically, it's 17, right?
19.
19.
You said 19.
19.
So,
Well, read 19, would you?
Can I just ask a question while they're finding it? How are the 50 children decided?
It's whoever signed up.
So once you've reached 50 children, if you're the 51st, you
Those are
don't
the
get support services.
Those are the people that signed up. They didn't have above and beyond that. I indicated to the Boys and Girls Club that if they had people above and beyond that, like we indicated, we'd want to think of other means. I asked them to reach out to me, and they didn't reach out to me at that point.
So was this a sign up that was created before virtual school started?
Yes, this
Okay.
was a sign up that started before virtual started.
So since virtual school started, have we realized that there are more kids that could use services I have horrible connection issues at my house. I'd love for my kid to go to the Boys and Girls Club, but obviously she can't, she's a junior.
Yeah.
But we have to figure out something to do because she can't get access from her home.
And
I think-
did you not tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, it is just it's Boys and Girls Club members first.
They threw it out there for a sign up, and it was anybody that could
So it
sign
can
up.
be anybody?
Can be anybody.
So
And
since
the
we
area-
haven't signed
okay, I'm
up, have we
sorry.
had more children that now we found out that we need to service beyond 50?
And those are all things I'd work with the Boys and Girls Club on.
Okay.
In the area that I was looking at, Ken, community programs and services
Yeah, I read
established,
that.
do you find it now?
Definitely, that doesn't cover it because it's outside the regular curricular and extracurricular programs for the pupils. And that's what they're supporting is that, correct?
Well, the area that I was looking at is establish and maintain community education, training, recreational. So when I saw the education, that's what everybody else is going off of.
Keep going.
Outside the regular curricular and extracurricular programs of pupils under such terms and conditions as the school board prescribes.
And this is not outside the regular curricular or extracurricular program. This is in support of, correct?
Yes.
So it doesn't fall under this.
unless you want to argue that online is outside of your regular curriculum. I don't know if you could do that or not. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
So you could say it's outside of the regular curriculum if those kids are not scheduled to be in school that day, it's outside of the regular schedule.
I'll make a motion
I
in
don't
support of it. It's clear we have to support our district's children. I would just like to see it that we're supporting more than the 50 who are allowed to go to the Boys and Girls Club. So I don't want this to be the end point. I want this to be the starting point. So I will make a motion that we approve the Fund 80 request to support the BGC for the cost of $5,504. I feel like we need to have some limit on it. I guess it can't be indefinite.
I would agree. No, I 100% agree with that.
I would say that we have to revisit it if the cost exceeds 10,000. But, that would be 16 days, right? If the first date was 5,000, it would be 10.
We just made a motion for $5,504.
To revisit if the cost exceeds $10,000. So we can currently pay the 5,000, right? That's what we owe.
We don't know.
We don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
But it's, go ahead, we need,
I mean, that's what they're asking us to pay, correct?
Well,
Or that's what we're offering to
It's,
pay.
that would be an offer. It'd be us offering to do that. They're not, it's not an ask. They came and they asked if we'd be willing to visit utilizing Fund $80 like other districts have. So that's why I'm bringing it here.
we need a second.
How would you like me to word it that would bring more clarity? I just don't want it to be indefinite or unlimited, so.
Do you want to revise your motion?
Can I ask a question before, but you've already made it, so. Is there any other funds other than 80 that would,
That's where
that's where everyone else has done it? All the other school districts have pulled it from that.
they've all pulled it from that.
And this is neither here nor there, but we don't know what the balances of their Fund 80s are. Ours, to me, sounds low. We don't have a lot in there.
Ours is shot. When we put the community center in, we maxed ours out.
Yeah.
And because I believe we're also paying a portion of someone's salary.
It would be whoever works in the fitness center.
So it's
When the fitness center is
fitness
open.
center, the pool.
It's the fitness center, the
community
pool.
center, And I believe
Panther Down.
yes, I'm saying.
It's community
Hamilton
center.
Community center, but
Sorry.
there's also part of the, I think our community marketing program salary in there. We added something. Sean, do you remember what we added last year? In Fund 90, an extra $6,000 we added to take out of Fund 90 or Fund 80. We had the fitness center, we had the community center, we had the pool, but then we added something additional.
That part I don't remember.
All right, so Robin, if you would, can you restate your motion and then we'll see if anyone wants a second?
Can I ask a question, clarifying question? Have they told us how long they will service our kids for $5,504? I feel like it's hard
they're
to
gonna
make a motion because we don't know, does this mean that they're gonna service our kids for 1 month?
They're
or
gonna
3
continue,
months,
they're
or-
gonna continue to provide the services for our kids.
Okay, regardless, so,
They're gonna continue to provide the services for our kids. So this is, are we willing to help contribute for them to service our students when we're not in school?
so then I guess I'll just revise my motion to be that we will support the Boys and Girls Club for $5,504 of a one-time payment out of the Fund 80.
Okay, I have a motion by Robin. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a second by Sean. Is there any discussion?
So I feel like we're all in support of this one-time payment, but I think we're also all in support of brainstorming on other options going forward. The hesitancy is Ken bringing up the Fund 80, and I appreciate your diligence because that's what you do. You're good at that. But I also am comfortable the fact that 3 other school districts are supporting their Boys and Girls Club in this way. I do think the Boys and Girls Club serves a significant role. And I think what they, this $5,504 is showing thankfulness for what they've already done when things got shut down. But I would also, I second it and I'm going to support it, but I also am highly interested in coming up with other ideas than this going forward.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Are there other discussions? Questions? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Lastly, we have date and time for board meeting retreat. Ryan and I have been talking about doing it at our September 28th meeting, which will be our next meeting. We first meet like we have to discuss invoices and other business that we have to approve. and then move on to retreat style. There's a book at your desk, and the ask now isn't to read anything, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
You can if you like. You don't have to for next time. We'll be talking about that and maybe some other topics.
Yep. One of the things that I shared with Catherine here, there's a board development tool that we get through School Perceptions. They're the survey company that we give the school perception survey to our staff with. And it's the survey company that we use to send out surveys to our community, you know, to get parent feedback and whatnot. And part of what we get with that package when we purchase that is a board development tool. So it's a very short questionnaire. And so what we would do prior to the meeting on September 28th would be I'd send all of you a link to the survey. And so then all we do is ask that you complete that survey prior to that meeting, and then we'd use that meeting as a buffer to look at those survey results and start that conversation, and then go into our group learning together with this resource.
I took a pre-look at the survey tool. It's relatively easy to fill out, probably no more than 15 minutes of your time, but it's got some really good questions with specific items that we can look at, and figure out where we align and where we're different, and then talk about what those gaps are, and how we can better work together to come to some agreements.
So were you recommending the 28th after our normal meeting?
The 28th is the date we're looking at, and so I think sometimes when we've done retreat style, we've started a little bit earlier to allow us a little bit more time. So I think that's what we might want to look at recommending, is that we would do maybe a 6 o'clock for our regular meeting. Like, we'll start earlier and then do, our regular business, and then move on to the retreat style.
When we've done this in the past, we've done it usually that second meeting of the month because it's less heavy of topics that goes forward with that, and then we cap that we cap the retreat time for about an hour.
I'm just throwing it out there. Sean, didn't you think that numbers would be coming in for that meeting for us?
I'm sorry.
The September 28th, weren't you guys saying that the numbers had to be here by, you had to send something out by October 1st as far as final numbers?
We're gonna give a preliminary number in advance of that, just for the newsletter, but we'll have finalized numbers by October 1st.
So does
So
that
you're saying
mean,
you want to have a biz ops at 6?
I don't know, I'm just, if they're having,
No, we're having business operation in October after we get the final numbers. They're not gonna have the final numbers in order to give out pre-numbers.
got it.
Yeah, Ken.
Would we consider, because we usually have very good discussion during our retreats, hosting it a different night, off-site, where we can social distance without masks, so that we can talk freely and understand each other? Just an ask.
I'd be game for
I
that.
think that could be something we look at, or we have it in a bigger room, a forum that allows that. I mean,
Well, if
even
they're on
this
school
room.
district, you have to wear these.
Well, I guess the one thing that I want to be cognizant of too with that though is our administrators' time, and I don't want to ask another evening of them to come. So if it'd be something like, if we want to pick a different night, then, that week, or if it's a week of a board meeting, then I would personally tell them that they wouldn't have to attend that board meeting and get them any information from me, because I don't want to take another night from our administrators if we're going to ask to have another night.
Just a personal thought.
I would keep the same night, but we can discuss other possible
Locations.
venues, and we'll get back to you.
So the only real information that we'll have for this first board retreat is
I'll send out a link to the questionnaire.
the survey that you talked about.
Yep.
That's what we're.
And
that's what it's-
then that night we would look at those
Okay.
data results.
Yeah, Ryan and I would present the data results, and then we had some discussion around that. And then we kick off the book and what chapters would be asked for the next retreat meeting.
We
that
could
make
even
sense?
meet at the Lions Club building. Or at the park, anything like that.
It's gonna be cold, Ken. And dark.
We'll figure it out, Ken.
I think there's value in making sure that we have all the admin team available more so than changing our meeting date. So,
Well, and I personally don't want to tie up another night of mine. So I really don't have extra time.
Okay. Any questions on that?
What's the purpose of the board retreat?
The purpose of the board retreat is for additional learning, collaboration, and for us to come to consensus around what our goals and our strategy are as a district. You look like you're still confused. Do you have a
What's that?
follow-up? You look like you're still confused. Do you have a follow-up?
Well, no, I was under the impression that the board retreat was more or less what Ken was sort of saying, where we get together sort of informally to discuss topics and issues and thoughts, and then without it being a board meeting. And that was our collaboration time rather than the standard board meeting. That's what I was understanding what a board retreat was.
And that's what we're thinking about, Tom.
What's that?
That's what we're thinking. This is something outside of the normal board meeting. So what we would do is
Then it
we,
should be more on the line of what Ken's talking about.
If you recall, and we haven't done one for a while, so it's probably a little bit unfamiliar on the brain, is that we have done it where we've allocated like the first 10 to 15 minutes to just review like consent agenda items. And then we very quickly move on to the board retreat topics.
I know what you're talking about, Tom, because your wife used to make our mushrooms. And
Yeah, that's what we used to do.
That's what he's talking about.
That was when we had like a once a year type of a thing, but this is gonna be a more regular.
This is more like a book club. than a retreat.
So this is more or less an administrator
Yeah.
gathering, let's chit chat type thing. It's not really a board retreat,
You can call it what you'd like.
board development.
It's-
board development.
Board development.
That's better.
So what we can do is we could have a regular board meeting, then have a special board meeting after that and for board development. And this would be a board development.
Yeah, because like where we all separated into tables and stuff,
Yes,
I
Yes.
love that,
yes.
but I don't
That's,
consider that a board retreat.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
we'll call it board
Sem-
development then.
Semantics. All
Okay.
right, that's it.
We're having it. That's all
Okay.
you need to know.
are we starting at 6 or are we starting at 7?
I'd say we start the regular board meeting at 6, so we're not here until dark 30 at night. So then we'll cap the time of the board development meeting. No, I'm not gonna say the I word.
Want to do it.
All right.
All right, so 6 o'clock, September 28th.
I'll make a motion to have our board development time on the 28th of September at 6 o'clock.
Motion by Jane, second by Eric, that was you, right? Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I think if we were gonna have a board meeting,
The board meeting would be at
board meeting
6
has to be.
with a special
motion
board
has
meeting to
be
follow.
For the board meeting to start at 6, because when we developed our calendar year, we have them all at 7. So
So I
Right.
will reword my motion to state the board meeting will be, will
Followed
start
by.
at 6 versus 7. Followed by our board development.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Last up was attachment H, to do items information requests. Are there questions on what's laid out on there?
Took care of a number of those tonight, and so for the next action item list, then I'll update that and remove the things that we had discussed tonight that I typed in the status of those things. So unless there's anything else that you want me to add.
Were we able to hire a nurse?
No. So there was, we interviewed, and there was an offer made, but it was declined. And the reason for the person declining was due to the fact it was an LTE position. So Eric's looking at other means of working to try and get some more support within our district. And
did you add to your list? Yep, good, thank you, yep.
Okay, other questions? Yes,
I think I missed my opportunity to thank our staff and administration.
I don't think you did. Go ahead.
Okay, it was pretty remarkable to have kids in school today. And I know we got reports and updates, and we think back of all the different scenarios you guys had to work through, the different matrices you had to follow, the change in direction from your board of directors, communication with the staff. I can't even sit here and pretend to imagine or understand the time and effort that went into what happened today. I sincerely think.
Thanks, sir.
And it was nice to see the school buses tonight.
Yeah, it was.
It was nice to see it stop at my house. That's all I have to say about that.
We need a motion to adjourn.
You were happy to get your kids on the bus this
I'll
morning?
second.
All right, motion by Ken, second by Jim to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Right, I would ask if people have materials for us,
I even
they
bought
have
an
them on their
antenna
desk, so
for
we
it.
don't start it here and hand it to every board member. So we can get on the